The law office smelled of old leather and disappointment as my cousins divided up Grandma Rose's jewelry collection like vultures over carrion. Rachel held up the pearl necklace to the light, while her sister Monica clutched the diamond brooch to her chest. Their brother Christopher had already pocketed the gold watches. "I'll take the emerald ring," announced my cousin Stephanie, sliding it onto her finger. "After all, I was named after her middle name." "No, you weren't," I said quietly from my corner. "Grandma's middle name was Marie." Stephanie glared at me. "Whatever, Maya. At least I visited her more than once a year." That was a lie too, but I didn't argue. I'd spent every Sunday with Grandma Rose for the past 5 years, ever since Grandpa died. But according to my relatives, those visits didn't count because I was just trying to get written into the will. Mr. Patterson, the elderly lawyer, cleared his throat. "There's one more item." He pulled out a worn leather journal tied with a faded ribbon. Mrs. Delacroix specifically requested this go to her granddaughter, Maya Bennett. My cousins burst into laughter. "A diary?" Rachel snorted. "Perfect for the bookworm." "While we get the valuable stuff, Maya gets Grandma's grocery lists," Monica added, admiring her newly acquired ruby bracelet. "Fitting," Christopher chimed in. "She always did live in fantasy land with her nose in a book. Now she can read about Grandma's boring life instead." I took the diary with trembling hands. The leather was soft with age, and I could smell Grandma's lavender perfume still clinging to it. My throat felt tight. "Thank you, Mr. Patterson," I managed to say. "There's also this," he added, handing me a small envelope. To be opened with the diary. "Probably her secret recipe for banana bread," Stephanie laughed. "The only valuable thing Maya's getting today." I left the office with their laughter echoing behind me, clutching the diary to my chest. The 2-hour drive home felt eternal. I'd loved my grandmother fiercely. She'd raised me after my parents died when I was 12. While my cousins saw her as a source of holiday money and eventual inheritance, she'd been my whole world. Back in my apartment, I made tea in the china cup Grandma had given me, the one my cousins had dismissed as old junk, and settled into my reading chair. With shaking fingers, I untied the ribbon and opened the diary. A small key fell out, along with several folded papers. The first page of the diary wasn't diary entries at all. In Grandma's careful script, it read, "My dearest Maya, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and you're probably hurt by how things were divided. Don't be. Material things were never what mattered between us. But you, my darling girl, deserve to know the truth about who I really was." I unfolded the papers. They were bank documents. Swiss bank documents, with account numbers and access codes. My hands started trembling as I read the next page of the diary. Before I was Rose Delacroix, suburban grandmother and baker of cookies, I was Rosalind Morgenstern, and I worked for the French resistance during World War II. I nearly dropped the diary. The entries that followed read like a spy novel. My grandmother had been a courier, smuggling Jewish children out of occupied France. She'd carried Nazi secrets sewn into her coat linings. She'd been captured, tortured, and escaped. She'd fallen in love with a British intelligence officer. Not my grandfather, but a man who died helping her save a family of refugees. "After the war," she wrote, "several grateful families insisted on repaying me. I tried to refuse, but they established accounts in my name. I never touched the money. It didn't feel right. But I also couldn't dishonor their gratitude by returning it. So I let it sit, let it grow, waiting for the right person to inherit not just the money, but the responsibility that comes with it." I reached for the envelope Mr. Patterson had given me. Inside was a business card for a bank in Zurich and a letter of introduction. 3 days later, I sat in a pristine Swiss bank office, watching the bank manager's hands shake as he reviewed the accounts. "Miss Bennett," he said in accented English, "these accounts have been dormant for 60 years, accumulating interest. The initial deposits were substantial, and with compound interest." He turned his computer screen toward me. "The current balance is approximately 47 million Swiss francs. I stared at the number, unable to process it. Roughly 50 million US dollars. "There's more," he continued. "There's a safety deposit box. Your grandmother paid for it through 2075. She was a very forward-thinking woman. The safety deposit box contained more than money. There were photographs of the children she'd saved, letters from their descendants, a medal from the French government she'd never told anyone about, and detailed records of every family she'd helped. But it was the letter at the bottom that broke me. 'Maya, my treasure, this wealth comes with weight. Every franc represents a life saved or a sacrifice made. I watched your cousins grow into people who value price over worth, who mistake glitter for gold. But you, who spent your Sundays reading to me, who learned to bake not because you wanted my recipes, but because you wanted my stories, who sees value in old diaries and china cups. You understand that the greatest inheritances aren't always visible. Use this wisely. The account information is hidden throughout the diary, in the stories I've written. Read them all. Learn who I was. Then decide who you'll be. I spent the next month reading every entry. The account numbers were cleverly woven into her stories, dates that were actually codes, descriptions of places that were bank routing numbers, names of people that were passwords. Some entries made me laugh. Others made me cry. All of them revealed a woman of incredible courage, wit, and compassion. A woman my cousins had never bothered to truly know. Then came the family reunion. I arrived in my same sensible Honda Civic, wearing my usual bookstore employee attire. My cousins pulled up in their respective luxury vehicles, draped in Grandma's jewelry. "Maya," Stephanie called out, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "How are you managing? I know times must be tough on a librarian's salary." "Bookstore," I corrected. "And I'm doing fine." "Sure you are," Monica smirked, the diamond brooch glinting on her jacket. "That's why you're driving the same car from college." During dinner, they couldn't resist showing off their inherited pieces. Rachel had gotten the pearl necklace appraised. Worth $20,000. Can you believe Grandma had such valuable pieces? Christopher boasted about the watches. Vintage Rolexes. Who knew the old bird had such taste? Finally, Stephanie turned to me with mock concern. "Maya, honey, if you need money, you could always sell that diary to a historical society or something. I'm sure someone would pay a few hundred for it." "Actually," I said, setting down my fork, "I did have it appraised." The table went quiet. "Oh," Rachel leaned forward. "And the appraiser couldn't stop shaking," I said truthfully. "He said he'd never seen anything like it." My cousins exchanged glances, suddenly interested. "What do you mean?" Monica demanded. "It's just an old diary." "Not exactly." I pulled out my phone and showed them a photo I'd taken at the bank. Not of the balance, but of one of the medals. Grandma was in the French Resistance. She saved dozens of Jewish children during the Holocaust. The diary contains detailed accounts of her missions. That's impossible," Christopher sputtered. "She was just a housewife." "She was a hero," I corrected. "And various museums and historical societies have already reached out about preserving her story. The Smithsonian wants to include excerpts in their World War II exhibit." "How much are they paying?" Stephanie asked immediately. "I'm donating it," I said. "After I publish the book, with all proceeds going to Holocaust education." "You're giving it away?" Rachel was aghast. "But if it's that historically significant, it must be worth millions," I finished. "Yes, I know exactly what it's worth." They stared at me in horror, calculating what they'd missed out on. "But the jewelry," Monica touched the brooch defensively, "is beautiful," I agreed. "Grandma bought most of it in the 1960s and 70s. Nice pieces, good quality. But the real treasure was always her story. You just never asked to hear it." I stood to leave, then paused. "Oh, one more thing. Remember those Sunday visits you mocked me for? We weren't just having tea. I was recording her stories. 12 hours of audio recordings. The publishers are very excited." As I walked to my car, Stephanie ran after me. "Maya, wait. We're family. Surely Grandma would want us all to benefit." "Grandma left each of us exactly what she thought we deserved," I said. "You got the jewels. I got the truth. But if there's money from the book..." "The book isn't about money," I cut her off. "Just like those Sundays weren't about inheritance. They were about love. You can't put a price on that, Stephanie. Though you certainly tried." I drove away, leaving her standing in the driveway, mentally recalculating the value of every interaction she'd dismissed. The truth was, I hadn't told them about the Swiss accounts. That secret would remain between Grandma and me, at least for now. I had plans for that money. A foundation in her name, scholarships for refugee children, a museum dedicated to the unsung heroes of the resistance. But first, I had a book to write, a story to tell, a grandmother to honor. That night, I sat in my apartment, wearing the one piece of jewelry Grandma had given me while she was alive, a simple silver locket that my cousins had dismissed as cheap. Inside was a picture of her from 1943, young and fierce and ready to save the world. I opened the diary again, running my fingers over her handwriting. On the last page, she'd written, "My darling Maya, they say you can't take it with you when you die. But you can leave it with the right person. You are always the right person. Not because you're perfect, but because you understand that the most valuable things in life are the ones that can't be sold. All my love, Grandma Rose." The appraiser had been right to shake. Not because of the monetary value. He never saw the bank documents, but because he'd recognized the historical significance immediately. He'd actually cried reading some entries. "This changes everything we knew about civilian resistance networks," he'd said. "Your grandmother was a ghost, a legend. Historians have been looking for the Rose Courier for decades. My cousins would find out about the Swiss accounts eventually, when the foundation was announced. They'd be furious, probably contest the will, claim I'd manipulated a sick old woman. Let them. I had 60 years of compound interest and the best lawyer's money could buy. More importantly, I had the truth. I had her stories. I had proof that Rose Delacroix was so much more than the grandmother who baked cookies and wore nice jewelry. She was a hero who taught me that true wealth isn't measured in carats or cash, but in courage and compassion. And that sometimes the best inheritance is a leather-bound diary that teaches you who you really come from and who you're meant to become." The cousins kept the jewelry. I kept the legacy. I think Grandma Rose would have laughed at the poetry of that.